Today in math class, we are going to be working with measuring angles. Yesterday we worked on classifying angles. We're going to take it one step further today. Go ahead, measure them, and put a number with our angles. So when we're measuring our angles, we're going to use a protractor. This is my protractor. Your protractor probably looks similar, or it might look different. It's always a half circle, and if you look in the corners, it always goes from 0 to 180. The one kind of curious thing that a lot of people always ask about protractors is as you look at it, it has two sets of numbers on it. So if you look right here, you have 110, you have a 70. Right here you have 100, you have 80. You have two numbers for every spot on the protractor. And there's a reason why that is, and we're going to talk about that. And the work you guys did yesterday with classifying angles is actually going to come in really handy. So when we're measuring an angle, we're going to measure this one first. It's really, really important to classify it first. So you want to think in your mind, or you can even write it down on your paper or whatever it is you're using, what type of angle it is. So when I look at this, I always, when I classify my angles, I always think 90 degrees, less than 90 acute, more than 90 obtuse. So this is an obtuse angle. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and label it. And the reason why it's important to think about the classification for your angle is because you're going to go ahead and measure it, and the two numbers that are on your protractor have a lot to do with classifying your angles. So when I actually get ready to measure my angle, I'm going to take my protractor, and it's really important that on the bottom of your protractor, a lot of them have a hole, and you're going to line the hole up with the vertex. Remember the vertex when we did our geometry vocabulary. It's that point where the two lines meet. So you want to put the dot on your protractor in that spot, in that vertex, and then you want the bottom line that runs along your protractor, this line, to line up with the bottom line of the angle. Okay? You don't want to put your protractor so the bottom of it lines up on the line because you're not going to get an accurate reading. So the dot goes on the vertex, the line goes on the bottom line, and then at that point then you can go ahead and you can look at your numbers. Now, when you get up here, you can kind of see it's between the 120 and the 130, and then up top it's between the 50 and the 60. So you remember that when we were classifying our angles yesterday, we talked about how an acute angle is less than a right angle, and a right angle is 90 degrees. So when you look at these numbers, you're going to have to make a judgment about which set to use. So if you're measuring an acute angle, you're going to use the numbers that are less than 90. If you're using an obtuse angle, or measuring an obtuse angle, you're going to have to use the numbers that are greater than 90. So in this case, I've already classified my angle as obtuse. I can look at this line and I can say to myself, you know what? That's going to be greater than 90. It's between the 120 and the 130. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have this angle measured at 125. The reason why they put the angles, or they put the numbers on both sides, is because they can actually have, and I'll show you this here really quick, you can have angles pointing in both directions that are obtuse. So for example, instead of having this angle drawn that way, I could have...
Please call the front office. Ms. Batters, please call the front office.
I could have had this angle measuring this way, like that. And again, taking my protractor, put the dot on the vertex, and I tried to get it to turn out to 125 again, and I missed by a little bit, I think. Or maybe not. Bottom line of the protractor is lined up with your line, and then again, I'm looking at this angle, it's still obtuse, and it's still 125. It's just on the other side of the protractor. So that's why there's numbers on both sides of the protractor. But again, you're going to have to make a judgment and look at your angle and make a judgment on your part about whether it's acute, obtuse, or right, and then look at that protractor and decide. Okay,
Ms. Chin, please call the
on
front office. Ms.
my other angle over here, I'm looking at it. I'm going to go ahead and practice with this one. This one is an acute angle, and I know that because, again, I like to draw in where 90 would be, and I look at it, and I can see that it's less than 90. It's on this side of 90. So I can go ahead, I can classify this as acute. So now when I measure it with my protractor, I know that I'm looking at the smaller set of numbers, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take my protractor. Remember, the dot goes on the vertex. My baseline on my protractor lines up with the baseline of the angle, and then I can go ahead and look, and you can see it's crossing here, and I have 40 and 140. Since I'm acute, I'm less than 90, so I'm going to take the acute angle, go ahead, classify it as 40. Okay? When you get into measuring angles that are either right angles or close to right angles, again, you're still going to do the same thing. If it's slightly off, you're going to have to make a judgment, but I think I actually have this one as a true right angle here. So again, I'm putting my dot on the vertex, the baseline's measured up, and then if I have a 90-degree angle, it's going to be right through that middle, just like that. So that is how you are measuring angles. So today we're going to practice measuring angles. If you look around the room, there are several sets of angles that are on white construction paper that are posted around the room. You need to use your protractor and use the recording sheet, walk around the room, measure all 10 angles. When you're finished measuring all 10 angles, you're going to check your answers with your partner and make sure that they are all correct.